Welcome back to the Smugsy Show. I'm Smugsy, your host. Every Wednesday we meet here to talk about important things and important people. Last week we established as a matter of fact that the Smugsy brand has arrived. The Smugsy character is alive in the minds of fans across the globe, and we're grateful. This week's show is briefly the origin story. What makes a grown professional married woman play a character named Smugsy on a YouTube show? But first, a word from our sponsor, Smugsy, sleek and elegant joint ciggies made with organic cannabis rolled in all natural, locally sourced paper. Look for Smugsy in the pretty indigo and marigold packs. Well, it was September 11th, 2018, when he said to me, I want to break up the relationship with your column. I don't like what we're producing together anymore. That's what he said. So he canceled me on September 11th, 2018. And shortly thereafter, I redefined myself as Smugsy. This guy who said that, his name is Greg. Okay, Greg canceled me on September 11th. And the reason why Greg canceled me on September 11th really boils down to because he's a moron that was in over his head and didn't like the fact that my column was doing better than his column. I had been writing for 3 years, once a week for 3 years, for $150 per week. And I had one of the most highly read columns. I have all the numbers. My column often was the top traffic of the weekend, and especially when I wrote about national issues. Off the charts, 10,000 or more. So I was canceled on September 11th, 2018, and it reminded me a little bit of the way Kirk Minihane was canceled from EEI. So it makes sense, why not just become Smugsy on the Kirk Minihane Show? So why was I canceled by Greg? He's the main reason is he just didn't have the bandwidth to work with me. He didn't have the bandwidth. He didn't have enough going on upstairs. He really was in over his head. He should not have been the editor. Somehow it was like a sweetheart deal, and he finagled his way. Not only was the editor, but he was in the union, so his job was protected, even though he couldn't do it. He couldn't understand what I wrote. He couldn't get my point of view, and because he had a preconceived notion of what I should be saying, it made him uncomfortable. Despite the fact that the readers loved it, okay? My readers, they loved the column. I'll give you an example. I wrote a column about zipper merging. Zipper merging is a traffic engineering term that relates to when there's a sign that says lane closed ahead, merge. Let's just say the left lane's going to close. Zipper merging is the idea that you should just wait till the very end before you start to merge, whereas what really happens a lot of times is people line up along the right-hand side. And if somebody goes by, they get mad. They're mad. They think that everybody should line up. But really, the people who are driving by are doing it the right way because it's most efficient. So I wrote this column saying that there had been so much passion around my columns, so much traffic, so many comments, so many letters to the editor. I pointed out that, columnists are like the people who use the zipper merger. We have information. We're trying to do things the right way, have an opinion, but it's an informed opinion. And even though people might think I'm an asshole, I'm doing it for the best interests of society. Greg didn't understand that. He's like, I don't get it. Even a reporter sent around an email saying, "What a great column." So he didn't get it because he has ADHD. He wrote a column about himself where he announced that he's been diagnosed since he's been a kid with ADHD, and so he can't. He just can't focus, and he can't pay attention, and he has a binary sense of time. He says basically, quote, "There's now and not now." I mean, this is the guy who's my boss. He says my columns were late, but I turned him in every Friday for 3 years. And the column was published on Sunday, every Friday, usually before noon, sometimes afternoon. He just couldn't set aside time on Friday afternoon to edit my column because he was a bad editor, and he was mad because my column was doing better than his column. And then he decides he's not going to publish one of the columns. It gets so bad that I write something about Zach Ringelstein in the Market, okay, and his position on capitalism, Zach Ringelstein being a U.S. Senate candidate, myself having run for U.S. Senate, know a little bit of something about the campaign, interviewed Zach Ringelstein for, I don't know, over a half an hour. It wasn't a deposition, but I am a trial attorney, so I asked him a lot of questions. I read a federal complaint that's filed in court, as well as the order dismissing the case, and wrote a column about Zach Ringelstein. Greg sends me an email. He's not going to use it. He says, I'm not going to use your column. I'm not going to use this column. I don't understand it, and I don't have time to work on it. This was I sent it to him on Friday was the deadline. I sent it to him on Friday at 12:34 in the afternoon. And it's not like I don't know how to write. I write for a living. Like I said, my column was doing better than Greg's. And it's not like I don't have ideas. I do have ideas. It's just that Greg didn't understand the ideas. So I tell him I want to be treated fairly. You can't just not publish my column. I worked hard on it. He then breaks it off with a column. Tells me he's going to end the relationship. I asked him, I said, well, have you considered the numbers? He said, no. He didn't even know the numbers. He didn't know where to go to find the numbers. He didn't know what the page views were. He didn't know who made the decision of where the copy was. He didn't know that a picture was in the paper of me with ticks on my head. I don't think he had the paper delivered. Just the worst possible editor. He couldn't do his job. So it was like a law school essay question. You are hired to write a column every week under a deadline. You write a column every week under a deadline. It's a very good column. It's very popular. Your boss has ADHD and therefore can't concentrate or edit or understand your column and fires you. He can't be fired because he's in a union. What are your remedies? I mean, you know, how about a Louisville Slugger to both headlights? Really, what am I going to do? File a lawsuit? But, and it was a little bit like the Kirk Minihane Show, and Kirk leaving EEI, and his show is, you know, obviously his show is a little bit more popular than the Smugsy Show, but we're on our way. We're in our 4th season, 400,000 page views, and the mission of the show has changed a little bit, but here's the thing. In preparing for today, I wanted to go back, you know, never forget where you came from, and the Smugsy Show was born on the Kirk Minihane Show. It was in 2019. So I listened to the show today, and wow, it was quite a show to drop in on. And Justin, dramatic. Okay, think about Justin getting fired today, and think about like this milque-toast Greg, okay, with the, I want to end the relationship with your column. I don't like what we produce together anymore. Fuck you. Anyway, I'm listening to the show, and they need a cause from Minifans Across America, and the Smugsy Show now is fighting for refugee housing. So, I mean, it's like now that we're friends, I just want to help. I'll help out, and I could do a leg of Minifans Across America. I mean, you may have heard that I came in 32nd of my age division in the Beach to Beacon. There's that. Plus, I'm a really good backup dancer. There was a mention about needing for a backup, so I can do a leg, but I have a cause that the Minifans, I think, would really get behind, and that is refugee housing. Why not? Okay. Volodymyr Zelensky, who does he remind you of? Young, dashing, brave comedian. That's right. He reminds you of me, and maybe the Kirk Minihane Show. And so, refugee housing. Minifans Across America for refugee housing. I like it, and I hope you like it. And next week, you may be wondering, like, why now? Why are you coming out with this kind of sad story about Greg? And I know it's like having Greg as my editor would be like having Justin, okay? Or really any millennial. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with you. What do you mean? I send you a column every week. It's better than your column. It's a good column. All you got to do is edit it. Like, pick out a few errors, not rewrite it. So, why now? Well, I'll tell you next week. See you next week. Subscribe to the show. Leave a comment. And until next time, this is Smugsy Girl signing off.